making headlines. The foreign minister states that significant discussions pertaining to the economic development of the Maldives were held during his official visit to China. The fisheries minister announces the government's commitment to facilitating sustainable marine life research. And the Environment Ministry seeks investors to establish 15 megawatt solar PV systems in 13 islands nationwide.
Welcome to the English News. I'm your host Malak Ahmad Fayaz. Now for the news in detail. The rules of procedure for the Parliament have been passed. The rules were passed with amendments made by Parliament to a report from the Parliamentary General Purpose Committee.
The new rules were adopted unanimously by 64 members. The new rules of procedure also include the creation of a committee that studies housing matters and proposes legislative changes. The committee also oversees social housing projects, addresses related issues, ensures equitable access to housing, and examines housing challenges faced by citizens. Under the new rules, the parliamentary recess has been changed from 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. to avoid conflicts with prayer times, as noted by the Parliamentary General Purpose Committee. The revised rules also specify that if a minister resigns after a question notice has been reserved, the question becomes invalid and parliamentarians must resubmit their questions. Additionally, parliamentarians are now required to provide a notice of 45 minutes for emergency motions, an increase from the previous 15 minutes. The allotted debate time for emergency issues has also been extended from 3 minutes to 5 minutes.
The government proposes amendments to the Employment Act to grant the relevant ministry the authority over the number of foreign laborers allowed into the Maldives. The amendment introduced by parliamentarian Mohammad Dawood on behalf of the government proposed to change the previous limit of 100,000 workers per country. Under the proposed amendments, the relevant ministry will set the numbered regions where foreign workers can be employed through new regulations. These regulations will establish different criteria based on industry occupation and skills levels to determine the allocation of foreign workers throughout the year. Additionally, the amendment mandates that decisions be made with the Cabinet advice following an assessment of the impact of foreign employment on the labor market of the Maldives. The factors to be considered include the unavailability of local workers for critical jobs, the potential negative effects of specific sectors due to a lack of local workforce, and national security implications. Furthermore, employees will be required to register the work sites where foreign workers will be employed, secure necessary permits, and adhere to quota requirements. The changes to the employer or the site of employment will be regulated under the new law. The amendment also grants inspectors the authority to enter work sites without prior notice to detect illegal immigrants. The amendment also grants inspectors the authority to enter work sites without prior notice to detect illegal immigrants, although they must obtain permission before entering residential properties. Moreover, the ministry responsible for foreign workers will have the power to address illegal foreign employment by closing work sites, imposing fines, and revoking permits under the Immigration Act. The amendment will also introduce penalties for those who fail to comply with the new regulations, including publicizing the names of negligent parties, imposing fines of $324 per employee, and suspending services for repeated violations. Minister of Foreign Affairs Musa Zamir states that significant discussions pertaining to the economic development of the Maldives were held during his official visit to China. The official trip took place from July 20th to 24th at the invitation set by Minister of Foreign Affairs of China Wang Yi. During the visit, Minister Zamir engaged in extensive talks with Minister Wang aimed at enhancing bilateral relations. Discussions centered on crucial infrastructure projects, economic cooperation, and sustainable development initiatives. He also formally delivered 2 letters from President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu addressed to President of China Xi Jinping. Additionally, Minister Zamir met with high-profile dignitaries from the Chinese government and representatives from key Chinese companies. During the meeting, the minister shared updates on ongoing and upcoming developmental projects, seeking to deepen bilateral ties and explore avenues for collaboration. A significant outcome of the visit was the signing of letters of exchange on the feasibility study for the redevelopment of Male and Vilimale Roads project. The agreement was signed by Minister of Construction and Infrastructure, Dr. Abdullah Muttalib, and Luo Xiaohui, the chairman of China International Development Cooperation Agency, (CIDCA). The initiative is one of the key pledges of the government of President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu. Concluding the official trip, Minister Zamir described the trip as successful, disclosing that significant discussions were held throughout the trip, centered on the initiatives of economic and infrastructural advancement. Minister of Fisheries and Ocean Resources Ahmad Shiam announces the government's commitment to facilitating sustainable marine life research. He made the announcement during the opening ceremony of the 5th Maldives Marine Science Symposium. Speaking at the ceremony, Minister Shiam said that President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu places importance on revitalizing the marine life and resources of the Maldives. He also said that the government aims to enhance research on marine resources and support researchers in conducting their studies sustainably. Additionally, Minister Shiam urged authorities to ensure that marine research is conducted in compliance with the rules and regulations of the Maldives. He highlighted that adhering to these regulations will aid in achieving the government's strategic goals for marine resources. He also said that the 5th Marine Symposium provides an opportunity to engage with both local and international scientists, fostering valuable exchanges of knowledge and experience. The Maldives Marine Science Symposium, organized by the Maldives Marine Research Institute (MMRI), began in 2016. This year's event, held from July 24 to 25th, features presentations of 92 research papers from local and international scientists. The opening ceremony also celebrated the 40th anniversary of MMRI, founded in 1984. In commemoration, the Fisheries Ministry also released a bulletin on marine life resources and lagoons. The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy seeks investors to establish 15-megawatt solar PV systems in 13 islands nationwide, with bidding opportunities opened until October 22nd. The ministry stated that the efforts fall under the Accelerated Renewable Energy Integration and Sustainable Energy (RISE) project in collaboration with the World Bank. The project aims to significantly increase the use of renewable energy, install battery storage systems for storing electricity from renewable sources, and modernize utility networks on the islands. Furthermore, the ministry disclosed that the selected contractor will bear the capital expenses for establishing and maintaining the solar PV systems over a 20-year period. The contractor will be chosen through a competitive bidding process based on technical and financial capabilities, as well as proposed electricity rates. The ministry anticipates that they will be able to elect a contractor during the first quarter of 2025. It stated that practical works for the project will commence during the last quarter of 2025, following the completion of necessary surveys which will be conducted in the area in which the power systems are to be established. Noting the significance of the project, the ministry projects a reduction of approximately 6 million litres of diesel annually. The ministry stated that it will further reduce the state expenditure on imported oil by $3 million per year. Under the RISE project, solar PV systems of 36 megawatts and battery energy storages will be established in several islands across the nation. Additionally, the electricity networks of 19 islands will be upgraded and modernized as well. Minister of Climate Change, Environment and Energy Tariq Ibrahim underscores the necessity of utilizing renewable energy sources to reduce the state expenditures and ease the financial situation of the nation. He made the remarks during the ceremony held to inaugurate the establishment of hybrid power systems in 12 islands of Tha Atoll.
Speaking at the ceremony, Minister Tariq stated that the power systems established in the 12 islands were solar PV hybrid power systems of 2.5 megawatts. Along with these power systems, a battery storage of 1.9 megawatt per hour was also established. Highlighting that the current systems established in the country generate 67.5 megawatts, the minister disclosed that the power systems developed in Tha Atoll will assist in reducing the usage of diesel annually by 1.12 million litres. It will in turn reduce the amount of carbon dioxide released to the atmosphere by 3,300 tons annually. Furthermore, Minister Thorig stressed the significance of reducing the dependency on the oil imported, emphasizing the need of bringing prompt adjustments, increasing the utilization of renewable energy. The minister highlighted that the nation heavily depends on imported oil to produce electricity and for transportation, adding that 13.5% of the GDP is spent annually to import oil. He said it was essential to switch to renewable energy sources to reduce electricity costs and to address the country's fiscal constraints. During the ceremony, Managing Director of Fenaka Corporation Limited, Muaz Muhammad Rashid, stated that the project of establishing the power systems was an important developmental project. He stated that it indicates that the Maldives is capable of generating electricity using renewable resources instead of being dependent on oil.
The Ministry of Homeland Security and Technology announces plans to expand services of the halfway house in Hulumale by introducing an outpatient clinic to treat drug addiction. Speaking to PSMNEWS, Deputy Minister of Homeland Security and Technology, Lubna Mohammad Zahir, highlighted the government's commitment to enhancing drug treatment services. She noted there has been insufficient funding allocated to the sector for the past 13 years. She therefore said that the current administration aims to implement significant improvements to the treatment system this year. Additionally, Deputy Minister Lubna said that the decision to expand the halfway house services in Hulumale is a key part of these efforts. She also said that the new outpatient clinic will enable individuals to receive the necessary treatment while staying close to their families. The government is prioritizing the resolution of the drug issue in the Maldives. The administration is also taking actions against drug traffickers. To tackle the issue of individuals being released after major drug arrests, the ministry is collaborating with the Attorney General's Office AGO and the Prosecutor General's Office PGO. The ministry has also identified necessary legal amendments and is making efforts to implement them. The government of the Maldives prepares a roadmap to enhance the disaster warning system to prevent and minimize natural disasters.
The program to establish the disaster warning system was officiated during the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, which was held in November 2022. The program, under the name Early Warning for All Initiative, EW for All, is a groundbreaking initiative to ensure that everyone on Earth is protected from hazardous weather, water or climate events through life-saving early warning systems by the end of 2027. Decisions were made during the summit such that all nations prepare a roadmap to establish the system. The Maldives was one of the first countries designated by the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, to develop the roadmap. The National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, in collaboration with the Maldives Meteorological Service, convened a workshop named Inclusive Communication for Maldives Early Warning Systems to kickstart this initiative. The workshop, spanning 2 days, saw the participation of 50 employees from relevant authorities. Speaking at the inaugural ceremony of the workshop, Secretary General of NDMA, Safinaz Hassan, stated that Maldives was one of the first countries from the region to implement the works of the program. She further noted that Maldives is the first country to develop the strategy and the first nation to adopt and publish the national roadmap for the initiative. Highlighting that several countries within Asia have been facing various natural disasters, Safinaz expressed confidence that the damages can be minimized if the disaster warning system is enhanced.
The Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company Limited, MIFCO, disperses over $65 million for 444,000 tons of fish purchased from fishermen since the government took over last November.
MIFCO has implemented a new pricing structure to expedite payments. The company has been purchasing fish at a weekly rate influenced by the international price of frozen skipjack tuna and the costs associated with purchasing and exporting the fish since July 1st. The latest data from MIFCO indicates that $4 million was disbursed to fishermen on July 1st and another $129,000 was paid on July 14th, totaling $4.3 million for the month. Currently, MIFCO has an outstanding balance of $20,730 to be paid to fishermen. Fish catch numbers have also been notably decreased, with the latest $129,000 payment covering just 125 tons, marking the lowest catch of the year. The fishermen attribute the decline in catches to climate change. Since last year, weather patterns have shifted, with June and July experiencing unusually dry conditions. The rise in shark populations has further impacted fishing. Despite these challenges, fishermen are hopeful for an improvement in early August due to an anticipated increase in fish abundance. Most expect to catch around 60% of last year's totals. Experts also note that fishing yields typically decline every 7 to 8 years.
The Maldives Marketing and Public Relations Corporation, MMPRC, and the Maldives Association of Tourism Industry, MATI, enters into an agreement aimed at enhancing efforts to promote the Maldives as a prominent tourism destination. The agreement was signed by the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of MMPRC, Ibrahim Shiri, and the Secretary General of MATI, Ahmad Nazir. Following the signing of the agreement, both sides revealed that the agreement is significant in promoting the tourism industry of the nation. Secretary General Nazir highlighted the strong partnership between MMPRC and MATI, noting that the agreement will further strengthen their collaboration. He stated that MATI will play a pivotal role in assisting MMPRC to expand the works of its destination markets. MATI will play a pivotal role in supporting MMPRC's destination market strategies, providing expertise and assistance in campaign, planning and execution under the agreement. Additionally, MMPRC will share statistics and insights related to the tourism industry to promote the industry based on previous experiences and information. President of the Maldives National Association of Construction Industry, MNACI, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, has underscored the crucial importance of ensuring that the burden on investors of businesses and firms are lightweight. The remarks were made in this address at the Annual General Meeting 2024 AGM of MNACI. Speaking at the AGM, President of MNACI, Jinnah, stated that current economy remains stable with the great assistance provided by foreign investors. Jinnah added that economic developmental works within the private sector also plays a pivotal role in maintaining the economic stability. Hence, he stressed the significance of ensuring that investors are not heavily burdened and called for a system in which the permits they require are granted conveniently. Highlighting that the construction industry currently faces the biggest challenges, Jinnah revealed that several obstacles are faced by the contractors due to the lack of availability of funds. On this stance, he noted that individuals working in the construction industry are not keen on conducting protests. Instead, he disclosed that the industry has been raising its concerns to relevant authorities abiding the rules of peace and diplomacy. He expressed confidence that the challenges can be resolved with unity. During the AGM, 18 members were selected for the executive board, including 3 female individuals. Global stocks edged lower after par in early gains, while U.S. bonds yields dropped as market awaited economic data and a plethora of corporate earnings moving past U.S. President Joe Biden's decision to end his re-election bid. Alphabet reported better than expected results after the closing bell, while Tesla saw its profits sink 45% on waning electrical vehicle demand. Their results kicked off quarterly earnings season for the so-called Magnificent Seven technology megacaps that have driven recent market gains. The U.S. Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation measure, will be released on Friday. The yield on benchmark U.S. 10-year notes fell 0.9 basis points to 4.25%. Wasif Latif, Chief Investment Officer at Sarmaya Partners, said that the market is in the show-me-the-money stage, where it is about the earnings being delivered. MSCI's gauge of stocks across the globe fell 0.06% to 816.37. On Wall Street, all three major indexes pared early sessions gains and finished lower, dragged down by energy and utility stocks. The Pan-European STOXX 600 index gained 0.13%, helped by technology-related rally. Overnight in Asia, MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan closed 0.30% higher at 566.92. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris campaigned in the battleground state of Wisconsin after securing support from a majority of delegates to the Democratic National Convention, making her the party's presumptive nominee. The Dow Jones Industrial averaged 0.14% to 40,358.09. The S&P 500 lost 0.16% to 5,555, and the Nasdaq Composite lost 0.06% to 17,997. The dollar strengthened overall while the yen rose for a second straight day against the greenback. The dollar index, which measured the greenback against a basket of currencies, gained 0.14% at 104.45, with the euro down 0.37% at 1.0849 US dollars. Bangladesh partially restores telecommunication services, although internet connection was slow and social media remained suspended. Days after deadly protests against reservations for government jobs killed almost 150 people. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government said on Tuesday that it would heed the Supreme Court ruling. As demonstrations against the quotas, which included a 30% reservation for family members of freedom fighters from the 1971 War of Independence from Pakistan, tapered off, the government started easing the curfew imposed last week. Officials said that the restrictions will be relaxed for 7 hours on Wednesday, and offices will be open from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Residents of the capital Dhaka could be seen out in the streets on Wednesday morning as they made their way to their offices, with public buses also plying in some places, in sharp contrast to the violent clashes in the city last week. Protesting students have given the government a fresh 48-hour ultimatum to fulfill 4 other conditions at an 8-point list of demands, and said they will announce next steps once that ends on Thursday. Protest coordinator Nashid Islam said that they want the government to meet their 4-point demand, including restoration of internet, withdrawal of police from campuses, and opening universities which have been closed for a week. The South Asian nation of 170 million was rocked by protests since the High Court verdict last month, which left less than half of state jobs open on merit in a country where about 32 million young people are out of work or education. European leagues and F5 Pro Europe will jointly file a complaint to EU antitrust regulators against FIFA's international match calendar. The move by the two bodies followed legal action by the English, French and Italian player unions against FIFA on the same issue in a Brussels commercial court last month. A person with direct knowledge of the matter said that the complaint to the European Commission, which acts as the EU competition enforcer, will be filed in the coming weeks. European leagues and F5 Pro Europe said that the international match calendar is now beyond saturation and has become unsustainable for national leagues, as well as a risk for the health of players. FIFA said that the current calendar was unanimously approved by the FIFA Council following a comprehensive consultation which included F5 Pro and league bodies. A FIFA spokesperson said that FIFA's calendar is the only instrument ensuring that international football can continue to survive, coexist and prosper alongside domestic and continental club football. The spokesperson mentioned that some leagues in Europe, themselves competition organizers and regulators, are acting with commercial self-interest, hypocrisy and without consideration to everyone else in the world, adding that those leagues apparently prefer a calendar filled with friendlies and summer tours, often involving extensive global travel. European leagues and F5 Pro Europe also alleged that FIFA's decisions over the last years have repeatedly favored its own competitions and commercial interest and neglected its responsibilities as a governing body. Last year, FIFA announced that the 2026 World Cup will have 104 matches instead of the traditional 64 games due to the expanded format with 48 teams taking part. Alphabet beats second quarter revenue and profit estimates driven by rise in digital advertising sales and healthy demand for its cloud computing services, but flagged that capital expenses would remain high for the year. Alphabet results underscore robust demands for digital ads driven by events like the Paris Olympics and elections in several countries, including the US, while a recovery in enterprise spending is boosting its software business. Strong adoption of generative artificial intelligence technology drove its cloud business. Advertising sales, Alphabet's chief revenue source, rose 11% to $64.6 billion. The company sells ads in its search product using customer data to better target them. Net income in the quarter ended June 30th rose 28.6% to $23.6 billion, based in the average estimate of $22.9 billion. Investor reaction was mixed, with the shares initially rising about 2% before dipping by a similar percentage. They had gained more than 30% this year, outperforming a 20% rise in tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite Index. Total revenue grew 14% to $84.74 billion, compared with analysts' consensus estimate of $84.19 billion, according to the LSEG data. Ad sales in its YouTube division rose 13% to $8.67 billion. Revenue from cloud computing services, a widely watched barometer for the health of enterprise technology spending, rose 28.8% to $10.35 billion. Analysts had expected $10.16 billion. Alphabet reported capital expenditures of $13 billion in the June quarter. Ruth Porat, in her last conference calls as Alphabet's chief financial officer, told investors that quarterly capital expenditures for the rest of 2024 would be at or above $12 billion. That's all the news we have for today. Thank you all for watching.
In the heart of Maldives, diplomats, resident and non-resident, as well as foreign officers, are building bridges between the nations.
And there is going to be a lot of financial resources. We are talking about
It's really well done.
to the climate.
What does it take with regard to fully harnessing?
Discover the